In today's video, I'm going to walk you through 10 steps to writing your very first blog post. And when I first started, this was honestly pretty tough. I kind of had no idea what I was doing. I had an idea, but I really didn't implement the steps that I knew, and my first blog post was completely awful. So I'm going to walk you through 10 steps to make that so much less overwhelming and frustrating. And if you follow along the steps, you should be able to make a very good first blog post. So let's get started. Step number 1, you want to decide what you want your very first blog post to be about. This really doesn't, is not really a big deal. I would just, pick a topic that you want to talk about, that you kind of have a passion for. And the goal for this is that it should be one small specific problem. So you're not solving someone's, massive problem in one blog post. So keep it simple, keep it easy. If you want to solve bigger problems, you can do that like in a series of blog posts, which is a great way to get more blog post ideas. So if you have like a big problem that you want to solve, you can do that through a series of blog posts as well, which is also a great search engine optimization strategy. So keep that in mind. So an example of this, this one small specific problem would be like planting a spring garden. That would be your big problem. And you could do maybe like 10 different blog posts, with each post being about like a specific crop or plant that you might have in that blog post. So let's say I'm doing 10 plants in, I'm doing like a blog post series with planting a spring garden, and I might do like green beans, radishes, onions, potatoes, tomatoes, and then like some lettuces or whatever. So that could be like what you could write your first blog post about. Is it can be part of a series. So series are a really easy way to get a bunch of ideas in a pretty simple format, and they're going to be very well connected to each other, which is really great for, again, search engine optimization. So remember that you are writing for one person, you're not writing for everyone. So try and think about writing to like a friend of yours. Pretend that you're maybe teaching your friend a skill. So again, going back to that spring garden topic, is you want to think about maybe teaching your friend how to start a garden. So this makes your content much easier to read. It gives it much better flow. So it's like reading a letter from a friend versus reading a like heavy, thick science book or something. So it should be very easy to read. And then let's see, I've got my notes down here, so I'm kind of looking at that here. When you are writing, personal experience in most every case beats expertise, I guess, in a way. So like, let's say someone who has, studied gardening from a book versus someone who's actually done the gardening in person. So that gardening in person experience is going to go down much easier than your, expertise, your studied person. Now, of course, they're both very valuable. If you can get both of those together, that makes you basically the perfect combination. But typically, personal experience is going to go down much smoother than your just your book smarts. But again, combining the two is really good. So use your own personal stories, your own personal experience to kind of write and improve your writing quality. So that is step 1, and that actually kind of applies to everything in your blog. And that's kind of an overwhelming first step, but really you just want to get an idea for your very first blog post. Just what do you want to write about? So I know that was kind of overwhelming as a first step, but just come up with an idea. Think about things that you want to include. If you know what your niche is, then find some common questions, some common problems that your niche might go through, that your niche audience has, and see if you can come up with some ideas and put those ideas together in a blog post, or you can do like a series of blog posts like the spring garden. Step number 2 is that you want to choose what your blog post format is. So this can be like a list post, like the 10 best plants to start in spring with your spring garden. Or it can be like an how-to tutorial type blog post, like how to plant radishes in spring, or how to plant onions from seed. A personal story with a lesson. This could be like something along the lines of how I started a spring garden with a raised garden bed, or something like that. Like a very personal story based type of blog post. The structure of your blog post matters, and that it saves you a lot of time and makes it much easier for you to create the content itself, so you're not struggling to figure out like what to say or what to write. So the better you have your post formatted, the easier it is for you to just put together. Basically like creating an outline in a way. So step 2 is very simple. It's about how you want to format your post. So step 1, figure out what you want to write about. Step 2, figure out how you want to write it. And then step 3 is create your title and headings. So this is going to be a little bit tricky if you are just getting started. For the most part, every single blog post you write, you want to have some kind of search engine optimization. As a beginner, you're probably not going to know how to do that very well, and that's perfectly fine. What I want you to do for this blog post is just to get it out there. So you could always go back a few months later, a few weeks later, whatever, years later even, and update and improve this blog post. It does not have to be perfect. I just want you to get it out there. So step 3 is create a title and headings. So with this, you want to focus on clarity of what the topic is over being super clever. Cleverness doesn't really matter so much as just being clear on what the purpose of the blog post is. So you want to, if possible, promise a clear benefit. So like I was saying with the spring garden blog post, so 10 ways to start a garden in the spring. You know exactly what it's about. There's 10 different ways to start a spring garden. It's that simple. It does not need to be complicated. So promising a clear benefit makes your title pop a lot more. It really brings your audience to you and just makes it much more benefit driven. So that gets a lot more traffic and helps you write your blog post a little bit more too. Again, you can always change this later. There's no commitment to what it is. So I'm just kind of going through my notes here as well. If you are familiar with keyword research and search engine optimization, include this. But as a beginner, again, you probably don't know this super well. Just getting your blog post out there is what is important. So some ways that you can kind of write your titles. So another example of this would be, how do I get stains out of a white shirt? And the results may look something like 5 ways to remove stains from clothes, 3 DIY stain remover recipes, or how to wash stained clothes. So if you're not familiar with keyword research, but you do want your title to be a little bit more optimized, just do a quick Google search, and whatever the results pop up is usually going to be pretty indicative of a good title for your blog post. So let's say I'm doing we'll go back to the spring garden thing. If you want to say, like, how do I start a garden in the spring? If you ask that directly into Google, some of the search results that you're going to see, those are going to be some really good titles that you can kind of get ideas from, some inspiration to putting your title together. So this step number 3, does not need to be complicated at all. Just figure out a title you think that's going to work for your blog post, just kind of making it clear and benefit driven, and that should be enough for now to get started. So with your headings, a little bit similar, but that's going to be based more on your outline, which is leading into step 4. I'll get a quick drink here. So step 4 is open a new post in WordPress and create an outline. So if you are not very familiar with WordPress, and like as a total beginner, and you are still kind of struggling to figure out how to use it and where to even go to do things, I actually have a bundle of courses for beginners. It's the Ultimate Bloggers Bundle. It is a great bundle of courses that is very comprehensive. It'll walk you through everything you need to know to get your website started with WordPress, to get your first blog post going. So if you are still kind of struggling to get started, this bundle of courses includes everything you need. It teaches you Pinterest marketing, email marketing, affiliate marketing, to get like traffic and money on your blog as well. And then how to build traffic, how to create a lot of content. So very super helpful bundle of courses, pretty affordable as well. The price may change, so make sure you check that out to see if it's still a good deal for you. But definitely worth looking at. I will include a link in the description. But that will kind of help you to get a little bit more familiar with WordPress if you are still struggling with that. So back with step 4, the creating an outline on WordPress. I would recommend kind of sticking to a template for your blog post. You'll kind of figure out an optimal template for you over time. But you want to typically do H2 and H3 headings for your blog. H2 is going to be kind of your main headings. Typically, that's mostly all I use. Occasionally, every once in a while, I'll use an H3 heading. And that will kind of help divvy up or break apart some of those bigger H2 sections. So it's a very simple formatting thing to do. Again, all of this like how-to stuff is included in the Ultimate Bloggers Bundle. So if you are very overwhelmed with that, make sure you check that out and see if that's right for you. But once you basically kind of set up your outline, you've got your H2 and H3 headings. You can put in some keywords if you know what those are, just kind of drop them in certain areas. But your H2 and H3 headings, those should just kind of be it's just a way of how you're going to outline how you are writing your blog post. So for me, a lot of times what I do is I will kind of find a keyword or two here and there that really stands out to me. And I will do almost like an FAQ format. So I might have like 5 different ways to, we'll just go back to the gardening example because that's such an easy one, I think, to work on. So let's say 10 plants to have in your spring garden. So each of those H2 headings would be one of those plants. So heading, the first one would be like radishes. The second H2 heading would be onions, carrots, lettuce, and you would just go through that as you do like a listicle type of blog post. And then if I have like any really long sections like that, I'll sometimes use an H3 heading to break it up a little bit or to expand on like an additional thought process. Excuse me. So that's how you would do the H2 and H3 headings. Occasionally, if I already have an email opt-in, I'll include that as well. Typically towards the end of my blog post. Every once in a while, I'll include it a little bit further up if it's very relevant to that section. So step number 5, write the first draft. Messiness is totally allowed. So with a first draft of a blog post, I'm kind of bad and I have the habit of wanting to fix all of the little errors as I go. If you can avoid doing that from the beginning, that's a good habit to get into. Your first draft is going to be messy and it should be messy. Really what you want to do is just get all of your thoughts and ideas on paper. So when you're starting with your intro, this is something I do like to do with all my blog posts is I like to fill out my intro typically, and then the rest I will fill in just the bare bone outline and then fill in the little sections that I kind of in the flow and thought process to write out for. So I kind of sometimes will move around from one section to the next on my outline and just fill out whatever I want to fill out. Some people will go just from top to bottom. It really depends on what your writing process looks like. But for the intro, instead of writing like just a typical intro of like in today's blog post, we're going to do this, this, and this, I like to kind of introduce the problem or really target the pain point that my audience is having. So with the spring garden example, let's say, because I'm actually starting a garden this year, so I think that's kind of why it's working for me on this video here. But like, let's say I am struggling to figure out what plants to put in my garden this year, and we're going back to the 10 plants to put in your spring garden. So my problem is that I don't know what I want to have in my spring garden. So the blog post is going to say, if you don't know what you want to plant in your garden this year, basically starting with a pain point. So like if you don't know what to plant in your garden, if you have limited space in your garden this year, or basically starting with some kind of problem or pain point that your audience has, and then target that first, and then basically lead into the blog post itself and say that you have the solution to their problem. So also when you're writing, just kind of write like you're talking to a friend. So that kind of goes back to, I think it was step 1, basically deciding what to write about. So just kind of write like you're talking to a friend. This improves your writing flow a lot more. And it also allows your audience to relate to you a little bit easier, which helps to build trust. So that makes that much easier for you. And again, when you're writing the first draft, just don't worry about going back and fixing anything yet. Just get your ideas and your thoughts onto paper. Your first draft is a first draft. You'll do the editing and proofreading later. So get it on paper and be done. Now, step 6 is you want to adjust for the basic formatting. This is kind of a tedious process every once in a while, depending on how you have your blog set up on your on WordPress. So this means just like setting up your headings so that they're correct, making sure that it's designed well in your outline, keeping your paragraphs short. This is pretty key for search engine optimization too, because you want your blog to be easy to skim, because very few people like read the entire blog post most of the time. So you want everything to be pretty skimmable. So you can do that by keeping your paragraphs short, which is usually 2 to 3 sentences at most. You want a lot of white space, evenly spread out. You can also use bullet points where they make sense. So like, let's say for garden tools, I have my top 5 garden tools, and you can include those like in a bullet point list. So that can be super good to keep as well. And then any like media that you might have, so like images, infographics, videos, like podcast episodes, whatever. Any kind of media that you want to include, you can go ahead and just drop that in as well. So that is step 6. Pretty simple, just a little bit tedious sometimes, depending on how much you end up wanting to put in there. And then step 7 is add some simple calls to action. This is going to be where you kind of get your results from your audience. So this can be inviting them to comment or leave questions in the comment section of your blog post. Linking to another page or like a freebie that you have. So encouraging them to click through a link, whether it's for like an affiliate product or to sign up for your email list. Telling your readers what you want them to do next. Like, go read this blog post if you have this, and this problem. Basically encouraging your readers to follow whatever steps you want them to take. So that is step 7. You can do this through any point in your blog post. It really just depends on how you have it set up. If you include like a affiliate link towards the top, encouraging them to click that. If you have like a email opt-in form kind of in the middle or towards the bottom, you can include that, encouraging them to leave a comment or a question. Same thing. Any calls to actions, kind of adding that in later. You don't really want to typically do that when you're writing your the first draft part. And then step 8 is doing a pre-publish check. So this is kind of where you refine everything down. So you've got everything set up, you've got all the content put together. This is when you want to basically review everything, make sure it's looking good. So check and make sure that you have everything you want in your blog post, all the content is written out well, check for any obvious like typos. I recommend using Grammarly to help with this. It's a service that you can, buy, but the free version is perfectly fine most of the time. I don't think I've ever really had a need or desire to like upgrade. So the free version sort of work perfectly for you for quite a while. It is also a Chrome extension, so it will work directly on WordPress, so you can basically just edit as you go. So that's kind of like the last step you want to do. You can always just do that very last. Step number 5, getting your first draft written, and then skipping all of like the editing and proofreading. That will come later here in step 8. And then checking for typos, obviously, and then any proofreading that you need to do if it needs to be kind of things need to be moved around or whatever, you would do that on this step. Making sure everything looks okay on mobile. This is really important here because so many people read blog posts on their phone. Not many people read on desktop anymore. Not many people have desktop. So mobile is very, very important. I think it's like 70 or 80% of people are on their mobile device when they're reading your blog post or honestly any content. So make sure that you have your post, that it looks good on mobile. This makes a huge difference. So there's this little button in WordPress where you can view it like on desktop and then view it on mobile. Super simple. It's not going to be like perfect on how it transfers, but you can always use that little preview button just to get an idea. It is going to look a little bit more different when it's actually published and you're like on your phone looking at it. So that is one thing to be mindful of, is that it's not going to look perfect or exact between like the preview and the actual publish. But that gives you an idea like on sizing of things too. So once you've done your pre-publish check, then you're ready to hit publish. It really is that simple. You've got everything put together and you're ready to just hit publish. So the reason I have step 9 being hit publish and not step 10 is that step 9, there's things that you're going to want to do after you hit publish, but I really just want you to get your blog post out there because, again, you can always go back later and edit it. You can improve it, optimize it more, whatever. It does not have to be perfect when you first get it out there. So you can always edit later, and you have to just start with your very first blog post. It's not going to be perfect. There's literally no way it's going to be perfect because blogging is a learning process. You're going to be learning for months and years to come, and you're going to be getting a little bit better all the time with your blog. And you'll never get better if you don't actually publish it, because in order for you to get your 10th blog post, your 50th blog post, your 300th blog post, you have to actually publish your first one. So that's my encouragement to you, to just publish your blog post. Okay. Step number 10 is, what do you do after publishing? So there's a few different things here that you want to keep in mind. Is one, once you publish it, you need to kind of share it to everyone. So this means making Pinterest pins and putting it on Pinterest, getting it, giving it a little bit more organic traffic opportunity. And then you can also share it on Facebook if you want, on Reddit, any other platform that you want to put it on. Typically, you can share it there as well. You can also share it on your email list. As a beginner, you probably don't have a very big email list, but you can start sharing it there as well if you want. Basically, the more you promote it, the more it's likely to get seen. And then as you go, as you learn SEO, you can start improving that too, and that will help you get more traffic. So when you first just get started, work on promoting it a little bit and then improve as you go. And then the next part is, don't worry about tracking anything. As a beginner, your first blog post is not going to really have, anything to track. You'll obviously be able to kind of see your page views and such, and you'll be able to set this up in Google Analytics. One thing I do want you to do, though, for this is that once you have your very first blog post published, I want you to get it indexed on Google Search Console. Now, this sounds kind of fancy and overwhelming. It really isn't. It's like a 2-step process. So once you get set up on Google Search Console, basically what you're going to do is just copy and paste your new blog post URL, and you're going to paste that into Google Search Console, and then you're going to request indexing. And this will basically tell Google that this is a new piece of content on my website. I want you to index it so people can start actually searching for it and it will be able to show up in search results. So this process here, submitting your blog post to Google Search Console, this is something that you should be doing for all of your new blog posts that you write. This is kind of one of those like little pro tricks that the earlier you learn it, the better. But it's not going to hurt you necessarily too much if you don't do this initially. Down the road, though, definitely want to start getting this going. And then you also want to start thinking about what your next blog post is going to be. So the easiest way to find new ideas for a blog post is to go look at your previous blog post. So for the gardening one, I keep going back to this example, but it's an easy one to work on. So again, you have the spring garden. You've got 10 crops to grow in a spring garden. You can do another blog post that's like 5 best tools for a raised bed garden, or like top 3 fertilizers for a in-ground garden or something like that. So there's all kinds of ways that you can kind of expand on like one idea or one blog post. So keep that in mind. The more ideas that you think of, just kind of keep a list, maybe on your phone or like on a Google Doc or whatever. Keep all these ideas that come to you, just kind of as you think of them, put them in a Google Doc or something. So, sorry, I'm kind of been talking a lot. My throat's a little bit dry. But that's all 10 of those steps. All 10 of those steps there. So again, your first blog post is not going to be amazing, and it really shouldn't be, because you don't want perfection. You just want done. So the more you practice, the better it's going to get, and you can always edit again later. Don't forget the edit button exists for a reason. So if you do want more clear how-to actionable tutorials on how to start your website, work with, create really good blog posts, learn a little bit more about search engine optimization, Pinterest marketing, affiliate marketing, how to build an email list, keyword research, all of that. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out my Ultimate Bloggers Bundle. Again, the link is in the description. And if you want to learn more about working with a blog and working with WordPress, I will link to the 5 most common myths that people believe about starting their website with WordPress. So watch this next video and I'll see you there.